All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Dids in the Dugout. We're back with our normal weekly show, joined here by Chad and Hitch. But before we get started into that, we're brought to you every single week by Rhythm, the best sports handicapping app out there. And they have this really cool thing going on. And if I knew about it beforehand, I would have mentioned it to y'all last week on the show. But you can use your models to actually predict the NCAA tournament. You can choose, if you have 3 different models built, you can choose all 3 of them, and they'll send you a bracket for each model of how your model shows that it will end up shaping out. So that's really cool. I did it with 2 of mine, just see what it looked like. And they have golf coming in April. I saw that date just the other day. They have golf handicapping coming out in April. So if y'all haven't yet, go to your app store or whatever the Android thing is. Chad tells me all the time, and I still never remember it.
Google
it's fine.
Play.
Whatever, Google Play, sure, go there and search for Rhythm, RITHMM, download it, sign up, and you get 14 days free when you sign up. And once you do, you will never go back again. It's an absolute game changer for any gambler out there. They have player props for NFL, NBA, and like I mentioned a minute ago, with the golf as well. So that'll be really interesting. So y'all go download it and give it a shot, and you'll be happy you did and make a little bit of money leading into the summertime, so y'all can take a few more vacations. But all right, Chad, Hitch, we're about ready to get started here. How are y'all doing? Chad, you took a week off from us, man. Now, I appreciate you coming down to Mississippi to see us, but you still missed a week, and Hitch wasn't very easy on you last week.
Well, look, I wanted y'all to actually get a chance to sound like the smart ones on the show, so that's why I took the week off. It's all about thinking about what's best for the show, and I'm willing to make that sacrifice just to help the brand, right?
Are you in an 8x8 sale right now?
Say again?
Are you in an 8x8 sale right now?
I mean, figuratively speaking to you feels like I'm in jail, but yes.
Yeah. So good news is it looks like Chad escaped all the charges he was coming back to Mississippi for. He was able to get back to California and not get stuck behind the bars of a jail cell. So he's in his normal environment. So really happy for you, Chad. Glad you got out of that hitch. I'm not real sure what he was talking about, but he let everybody know what you were facing last week. So, but good for you. So, all right. Well, before we dive into the huge baseball series coming up here in Knoxville, first of all, Chad, let everybody know when they can watch the women's basketball team start their NCAA tournament run. Coach O's got the women in the tournament again after a Sweet 16 run last year. They've had a phenomenal year this year, finished 3rd in the SEC, I Bleav, in the regular season standings. So just let everybody know when they can watch the Rebels start this run this year.
Right. So we're filming this on Wednesday. Remember, the men's side starts on Thursday. The women do it a little bit differently. They start on Friday of this week. The Ole Miss will play Saturday. I Bleav they're in Albany, New York. They're going to play Marquette out of the Big East.
We're actually in at Notre Dame. The first weekend is played on campus, and then it goes to Albany after that.
The Sweet 16.
South Bend. That's what I was trying to think of. South Bend.
Yeah, so we're in the 7-10 matchup in South Carolina's bracket. So we play Marquette on Saturday at 1:45 Pacific, so 3:45 Central. Winner of that game would play the winner of Notre Dame and Kent State. And like Dids mentioned, we are playing in South Bend for the first 2 games. So that would be a home court advantage for Notre Dame should Coach Yo and the Rebels advance to the round of 32.
And look, I mean, that's kind of like we mentioned just a second ago, nothing new to this basketball program. Coach O and the Lady Rebels, they did the same thing last year and came up with a really big upset of Stanford there out in Palo Alto, California, right? So that was a huge win for the program, kind of catapulted them, it seemed, into this season they've had. And you got to think that it's only going to continue to get better and better under Coach O from here on out. So really excited for the women to get started. Obviously, we'll be tuning in. Hope all of y'all do too. And just really get behind these women and this basketball programs. They've been really good the last couple of years.
And I should mention the game will be on ESPNU for those of you that want to tune in. It will be on ESPNU on Saturday.
There you go. So we need to get dual TVs going. That way you can watch Ole Miss and Tennessee baseball, and then Ole Miss and Marquette there in the first round of the NCAA tournament. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Looking forward to it. Best of luck to Coach O and the women. Hopefully we can make another big run here. So, but speaking of the NCAA tournament, we thought it'd be kind of a little fun exercise here if we gave y'all our Final Four for the men's bracket, right? That's kind of what everybody does. They fill out brackets and all that stuff. And so we're only going to focus on the Final Four here. I watch a good bit of college basketball. I know Hitch used to. I'm not sure if he even does anymore or not, but he used to love his spreadsheet. And Chad, I know you keep up with it as well. So it's at least three people that are at least familiar with the sport and what's going on. So let's start with Chad, your Final Four on the men's side going into to this year.
So I've got two number one seeds advancing actually on the same side of the bracket. I've got Houston and Purdue making it from their side, and then Auburn and Arizona on the other side. I actually like Arizona to advance as well as Houston. And I'm going to take Arizona to win. I've got a few teams that were bounced early on. Last season, Arizona lost to Princeton as a 2 seed, actually in Sacramento. And then Purdue, the second team ever to lose to a 16 seed. But I think that, if you remember, the first team that did it was Virginia back a couple years ago. The year after that, they won the national championship. So I think Purdue and Arizona are going to have a better showing this year, and Auburn's just playing lights out right now. So they're in a tough bracket against UConn.
That's the thing. They got such a tough draw, man. That side of the bracket with UConn, Auburn, Iowa State, BYU
is going to be tough,
right? Yeah. That's just brutal. So, all right, Hitch, what do you got?
Yeah, so I'm behind, like I was telling y'all before the show. This is the first time I've even looking at the bracket, and that region, that East region that Chad was talking about with Auburn and UConn, that's going to be a tough bracket for Auburn to come out of. But I think I was going to say
tough for anybody to come out of. Like anybody that goes through that gauntlet and comes out the other side, you've really got to like their chances from being battle tested, right?
Oh, for sure. And so I was thinking exactly what Chad was saying. I've watched Auburn play probably as much as anybody else other than the Rebels this year. And man, they are playing really good. Broom down low, when he's not in foul trouble, he's really great. And the Baker kid, the left-handed kid, is an unreal athlete. So I think Auburn comes out of that one. The other side of that, I hate Houston. My feelings on Houston Dids. I hate them so much. But
see, that's the team that I've probably watched more than any team besides the Rebels, and they are unbelievable. Yeah. I absolutely love them. They're so much better offensively this year than they have been in the past, and their defense hasn't slipped off at all.
Well, that's a positive because that's their shtick. They're known for their defense, and so defense is going to play well in the NCAA tournament. And on top of that, I don't necessarily see anybody on their side of the bracket that gives them any problem. Maybe Duke, maybe that left-handed guard for Nebraska gets loose and hits some threes and breaks down defenses, and you get an 8-1 upset there, maybe. But I think Houston's probably gonna walk into the Final Four on that one. The other one, man, I love Marquette. What Shaka has done, and I just said his name like we're on first name basis. Shit.
Y'all are.
Sure. What he has done there, D Wade kind of put Marquette on the map years ago and kind of introduced us to who they were. And then he had a lull there. And then we get this new group of guys with the transfer portal going in. And man, Marquette I think Marquette may win the whole thing. The last one is I don't know about this side. Right, this one is kind of a wild one. I don't see a clear favorite, so this is the one that I'll get crazy in, and I'm going to say number 10 Drake. Drake comes out of the side on this one. So Drake in the Final Four. So Drake, Auburn, Houston, and Marquette.
Yeah, I actually have Drake going to the Sweet 16, I Bleav. So I don't necessarily hate that Drake pick. Mine, I've got UConn coming out of that gauntlet over there. I think they're the second best team in the country. I think they're going to end up meeting the best team in the country in the championship game. But so I'm going to stick with UConn, the defending national champions. It's incredibly hard to repeat, but they are absolutely loaded. They have a ton of depth on that basketball team, and there's going to be a handful. Somebody to beat them is going to have to play their A++ game to get out of that. And I have no idea how I'll come up with it, but I've got Alabama playing them in the Final Four. I went back through and looked at my bracket and ended up having Alabama outscore North Carolina essentially in that region for one upset, and then going on to the Final Four. Got Houston coming out of theirs for my second number 1 seed, and then Creighton. I love Creighton. Watched them a bunch this year, and I'm admittedly probably a little too hung up on the way they absolutely bullied UConn in their matchup earlier in the year, beat them by 20-something points. One of the more impressive basketball games I have seen from one team with what they did to UConn there. And it was basically from the tip. So I've got Houston, Creighton, Alabama, and UConn. I got Houston and UConn in the finals, and then Houston winning the whole thing because, like I said, I've watched a good bit of Houston this year, and I've just absolutely fallen in love with that brand of basketball. They've always been such a good defensive team. Now they get a lot of clean looks. They move the ball so well, and they're starting to hit some shots. Now, there are some nights where they don't fall, but their defense keeps them in it when their offense doesn't show up. So I think they probably have the highest potential of anybody in the tournament, and that's why I've got them winning it. So I've got Houston winning this thing. So
yeah. So at the risk of sounding like a complete moron and idiot, I just realized I was looking at only half the bracket.
Correct.
Chad was just going to let me do it. I told you that was the first time I've been looking at it. So let me edit my picks a bit. Auburn, Houston.
Okay.
I think the kid from Tennessee is going to have a monster tournament. Yeah. Like this is the stage for him. Like he has been on the stage all year long, and then this is like the next stage that everybody is going to be watching him. So I think he's going to have a huge tournament. And then on this other side, you know what? I'm going to stay with number 10, Drake. No, I'm just kidding. Give me North Carolina. I think Babcock in the middle, it may be the best big man in the country for the past 2 years. And so big men play well in the NCAA tournament. Yeah, so I'll take that one.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. But we'll go ahead and move off basketball real quick, and we're going to shift to baseball. This is baseball season, guys, and the Rebels are hot. We've won 10 out of 11. Real briefly, I want to touch on this Southern Miss game from Tuesday night. We went down to Pearl, played Southern Miss. It was a really good competitive game there for a while, but it's almost like this team is really starting to find an identity. And Chad, I want to start with you on this. It's a close game through several innings. We're down 3-2 going into the bottom of the sixth. And then we start stringing innings together, 2 runs, end up winning 8-3. Kind of seems like this team's identity is starting pitcher gets you through 5 to 6 innings, and you go to this bullpen for the latter part of the game, the pressure moments that they have played so well in, and the offense just keeps responding for us to stretch these leads out to really make it not necessarily non-competitive, but kind of slam the door before you ever get to the 9th inning. Is that kind of how you feel about it too?
Yeah, you look back at the South Carolina series and how effective the bullpen was. And one thing that I think you have to attribute is how well Riley Maddox is pitching in these midweek games where you're not having to tap into your bullpen. Not to say that these games aren't important midweek, but it is kind of a necessary evil, right? I want to keep my guys fresh. And, let's be honest, Ole Miss has struggled in midweek games, it feels like, for the last decade or so, especially against Southern Miss. The last night was even better because they won. But being able to keep that bullpen fresh because Riley Maddox has come out and given us those 5 innings, we're not having to go to the bullpen early, which in turn could keep us from having all those arms available to us on the weekend. I think that's the biggest story of what's going on right now. But also, Ethan Leger is crushing the ball. Right? It doesn't matter when the game is, what day of the week. He is smoking the ball, and he's really turning into a leader. You know, he came in last year as a transfer from community college and know what we were going to get. And he has really turned it on this year. It's been really impressive to watch.
Yeah. That's a really good point you bring up about Riley Maddox. I totally agree. I even said last night that while it's not talked about enough, being able to get 5 to 6 innings out of a midweek guy, save a bullpen that is already so deep and so talented, not having to tap into that during the midweek. And on top of that, I'm starting to see a trend here. And Hitch, I'll go to you on this. With the pitching in the midweek, it's Riley Maddox, and then it always seems to be Braden Jones, Mason Nichols, Connor Spencer right after that. Now, it seems like Mike is starting to carve out a little bit of a role for Ryan Rodriguez, the lefty. This is the second time in a row that he's brought him in just to face the lefty to work that matchup, to get past that batter, and then he ends up going in to Braden Jones. Now, what I thought was interesting, kind of piling on top of that, Braden only went 2/3 of an inning, where you've seen him go anywhere from 1 to 2 innings in midweek. Maybe we're trying to save him a little bit for the weekend, but it kind of seems like they've got the formula down from a pitching standpoint in these midweek games, and it's really working out well for us.
Yeah, I mean, and real quick on Riley Maddox, like I know y'all talked about how he got getting through 6 innings and things like that, but just the way that he did it last night after that second inning. To still be able to get through 6 innings, like that was impressive. I think after that second inning, he retired 12 in a row, 10 or 12 in a row.
Yeah, something like that.
And
he does it on 93 pitches too. He was really efficient.
So
that sinker was so good.
Right, but what that shows is that he ran into some trouble. Some plays didn't get made. Maybe some hits fell in. He didn't get some calls. He didn't get rattled. You know, he stayed there, and that it's one thing to do that in an inter squad or against a team that's not the caliber of Southern Miss. It's another thing to do it against Southern Miss. You know, I say all that to say I agree with you 100% on how big that is to save the bullpen in midweek games.
And real quick, I think we should also bring up Mason Nichols, right? He threw last night as well, struck out the side. He's got he struck out 19 and 11 in the third, and he's got an ERA under 1, right? 0.79. He's been incredible. Dominant. Especially considering last year, right? Last year it was not the typical Mason Nichols season. You know, he comes in the national championship season, really shows out, showing that we really got something there, and took a slight step back last year, but man, he is pouring it on this year.
And I think a lot last year was just how much he was used. We were so thin in the bullpen, and now we're not. We've got, you know, anywhere between 8 to 11 guys we can bring in, and they're finding spots to get Mason in for him to be successful, and that's what good coaches do. And Mike's doing a hell of a job of that right now, and Mason's responded too. That's also a big part of it.
Well, and to answer your question, I think if I remember it right, Dids, I think it's twofold. Maybe, yes, saving Braden Jones for the weekend. But I also think that because Riley Maddox is going longer into games, and because we've seen our weekend starters go a little bit longer into games, I think a guy like Mason Nichols is going to need to throw in the midweek. So it's like I said, twofold. You're saving Braden Jones, but at the same time, you're getting Mason Nichols his work that that he needs to keep his arm loose. So I think Mike is killing 2 birds with 1 stone there.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because during that 2022 season, Ole Miss, if you remember the beginning part of the year, we started out so hot, ended up climbing up to the number 1 team in the country. And we ruled like 8 out of 9 opponents, and we weren't able to get those guys any innings. And they kept asking Mike about it after the games, and he was like, "Look, you know what am I supposed to do? We're playing 7 innings here. I don't have enough innings to get guys in the games." And now you're playing these 9-inning games. I think we've only had 2 run rules so far, and he still doesn't have enough innings to get all of these guys. I think it just speaks to the depth. Again, I know people get tired probably of me talking about this bullpens. I've been talking about it for, 4 or 5 months at this point, even leading up to the season. But it's been absolutely incredible, and it gets more impressive every single time I see it. When another game and another weekend goes by, and it's just business as usual for them. I mean, you look here against Southern Miss, they end up covering 4 innings, walking 1, and striking out 6. I mean, what the hell are you going to do with that? So,
right.
Really good job by them. Now, just real quick before we move on to Tennessee, Luke Hill is on an absolute heater right now. Goes 3 for 4 with 2 runs, hits a double. The one time that they got him out, he hit it right at the second baseman. He smoked it there. That's a guy that is really, really coming around and playing well, just to kind of build off your Leger point there too, Chad. But you're starting to look up and down this lineup, and now you're going, 6 to 7 deep in the 9-man lineup of the hitting order of guys that are really seeing the ball well and just really making life hard for opposing pitchers. So shout out to Luke Hill. Rough start to the year, but it's kind of like we always say, hitters are going to hit. You can't get too up or down at any point during the season, no matter what's going on. That also goes for a cold streak, and he's busting out of it in a big way. Him and Trayson are both guys that are 300 hitters, and it looks like they're well on their way to end up hitting 300 after both having slow starts. So that was just really good to see. Luke Hill still hitting the ball hard, so shout out to him there. But now the Rebels take 2 out of 3 from South Carolina, and this is it's not a free shot. It's a big weekend, obviously, going to Knoxville, but
it's an oil check.
You really have an opportunity to get off to a really good start in SEC play because you've taken 2 out of 3. If you can go take 2 in Knoxville and get to 4-2, then you've really got something cooking.
Yeah, I mean, you're going up against a team that's hitting 322. An offense that has just been fantastic, a pitching staff that has a team ERA of 3.1. And they've been a perennial power for the last, obviously they haven't had the in-season success like they've been expecting, but Tennessee's been the bully for the last couple of seasons, right? And we're going to Knoxville. This is going to be a chance to make a statement, because I think a majority of the teams last weekend that traveled in conference play, they struggled, right? This is going to be our first conference weekend on the road. You're right. It's kind of like
just
a little bit of
build on that, Chad.
Not expect it. Say again.
Just to build on that, if I'm not mistaken, the home team won every single series last weekend. Not a single road team ended up winning.
Yeah, that sounded right. I wasn't too sure. I know it was a majority of them. I didn't know if every one of them was, but it is kind of like house money, right? Going on the road, you're not expected to sweep. Just winning a series, hell, taking a game sometimes is a victory in itself. So, obviously the biggest thing we don't want to see is a sweep. And especially what you don't want to see is that pitching staff getting rocked, because the pitching staff has been one of the strengths that we've had. And this is a chance to really see what we have, because this is probably the best team we've played all year. Tennessee's played a tougher non-conference schedule than we did. So this is going to be a real test. It's going to be very interesting to see what we have.
Yeah. I mean, Tennessee, like you said, they've been the bully the past couple of years. Last year, the year before, their offense was one of the most impressive offenses. I myself, you hear stories about the old LSU offenses and things like that. I feel like maybe
the 98 Tigers,
that Tennessee offense, may be the one that I go, yeah, man, that would have been 22.
And they've been villains too, right? They've had that NWO mindset where they're just talking shit the whole time. So, I mean, they've had a target on the back for the last couple of seasons, if only because of how they have done what they've done.
Yeah. And I think I think that maybe a lot of people don't understand the value of going on the road in the SEC and just winning one game.
Right.
Like if we all sit here and say, if we go to Knoxville this weekend and we win one game, I'm like, that's good, right? I could see where people hear that and go, why? You lost the series or you didn't play well. Yeah, but at the end of the season, you got to remember all of these games where we want to win them all. What we are doing is building a resume towards the end of the season, and a win on the road in a place like Knoxville is going to be a big thing.
Yeah.
a series win is even bigger, and that's
man,
what we're hoping for.
Yeah. I think one of the things people need to remember because I think we're all on the same page. If we win one, we're all three fine with the results of the weekend at that point. Don't get swept. And that's, if somebody says that's a loser mentality, whatever, that's not what this is. It's understanding the landscape of college baseball in today's day and age. They use the quad systems now. It's the first year they're putting it into place, and Tennessee is going to end up being, by the end of the year, more than likely a top 10 RPI. And if you get one road win on your resume there, that's going to be such a huge boost. And it's something you're going to build throughout the entire year, because this conference is 13 really good baseball teams, and then Missouri. We don't play Missouri. We're not going to have that RPI hit. We're going to have quad one opportunities damn near the entire year with the schedule we have. I think that's just really important to remember, that it's not just, you lose 2 out of 3, so it was a failure. No, you've got to put something on a resume, especially the way they do it now. And y'all talking about the Tennessee offense, I went through and looked at a few things, and I'm about to rattle off some numbers for you. Their team ranks in the SEC 3rd in batting average, 2nd in home runs, 2nd in slugging, 2nd in runs scored, 2nd in hits, 2nd in RBIs, 1st in doubles.
They've hit 20 more home runs than we have this season.
Yes, they have. Now, the one thing that they do is they strike out a lot. They have the 3rd most strikeouts in the SEC. They never steal bases. They're tied for 12th, which is since they're tied with team for 12th, that's next to last in the SEC. And they never bunt, which I totally get. I wouldn't bunt either. But so they don't steal bases and they strike out a lot. Those are two things that, if you wanted to look for a silver lining, does kind of play into Ole Miss's hands there from a pitching staff standpoint.
60 doubles compared to our 31. Wow.
Yes, I know. They absolutely crush it. And
that's the one I just saw too.
And they're undefeated at home.
Undefeated at home, 16-0 at home, but they're only 2-3 against top 50 teams. So they haven't performed best against the better teams. Now, kind of going with the offense again, they have 8 guys with OPSs over 1,100. And this is based off of guys that's played at least 17 of their 22 games. So it's hitting a small sample size. 8 guys OPS over 1,100, 8 guys hitting over 300, and 6 guys with 6 or more home runs. And if I'm not mistaken, one of them has 12 doubles to go with his 8 home runs, something like that.
Burt. Yeah, Bleav Burt.
Yeah, Bleav Burt.
First baseman.
Yeah.
He's crushing the ball, hitting 375, I think, something like that. I mean, and absolutely unbelievable offense. The pitching staff's really going to have to bring their A game to get through this series in Knoxville. But it's one thing I think's been a really positive sign for Ole Miss. It's one thing people have really worried about coming into the year, and I think they've answered some questions with that bullpen depth being a part of it. So, I just think it's going to be a really interesting series.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the stats, right, it does appear that Tennessee is going to be free swinging, right? So the pitchers are really going to have to keep them off balance. And you can't throw too many strikes, it looks like, right? Because if you fill up that strike zone, they know what to do with it. It definitely seems like this is a hitter's haven in Knoxville. So the pitching staff is going to have their work cut out for them. And like I said, this is a good test, right? To really see what we have. It's going to be real fun to see what Liam Doyle does, considering how big he's been on the weekend since he's become a weekend starter. He's averaging 2 strikeouts an inning. So it's going to be fun to see him against this offense, considering, their strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah. And I think one thing that's also interesting is, as much as Tennessee does hit the long ball, I mean, whether it be doubles or whatever, but Ole Miss has allowed the 3rd fewest home runs in the SEC so far this year too. So we've done a good job keeping it in the ballpark.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting to say there.
Yeah, I mean, and as y'all were looking at the offensive numbers, I today I didn't dive in head first, but I started looking at these pitching numbers, and boy, AJ calls it. Well, he's going to be a problem on Friday night. He's good.
Yeah, 38 strikeouts before. Yeah, their Saturday starter, who I assume is Nate Snead. It may not be. He may be the Sunday guy, but he's the only guy that is really walking a lot, which plays into the Ole Miss offense's hands, considering how good our eye has been. But yeah, the Ole Miss is going to have to be ready to swing the bats because it doesn't look like they're going to have the opportunity to get many free passes.
No, that's what we talked about a lot last weekend too with South Carolina. It's kind of kind of a South Carolina on steroids with the offense that Tennessee's bringing in.
Yeah.
So, all right. So let's go ahead and do predictions before we get out of here for the weekend. Ole Miss in Knoxville. Chad, what do you think the Rebels are going to get done here? You think they're going to win the series or drop?
No, I'll be the negative side. Only because of what Tennessee did last weekend. I think they're going to be ready to play. I'm not going to count out a sweep for this weekend just because of this is going to be our first real test of the season. Yeah, you can say Iowa, but let's be honest, that bullpen was terrible. So I'm going to be very, very happy if we can get one win, but I'm gonna stay on the negative side and think that we may get swept in this one.
Okay, Hitch.
Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you, Chad. But I'm going to be on the positive side. I'm thinking for sure we're taking Saturday after Liam Doyle goes 8 innings, 12 strikeouts, right? Sprinkles 3 hits, right?
Something
like that. And so at that point, I think we take either Friday or Sunday. I'm going for. I think we take the series and we make a statement.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Hitch. I actually will specifically say I think we back in the series here. I think we drop Friday and end up taking the Saturday and Sunday games here. Look, Ole Miss can match with the best of them now too, right? Luke Hill's playing a lot better. Tracy's playing a lot better. And when you pair that with Leger, Groff, Fisher, and Jackson Ross and what they've been doing, that's a lineup that can really get to pitchers too. Because look, you got to remember last weekend South Carolina came in as a pitching staff that literally walked nobody, didn't walk anybody as a pitching staff. And Ole Miss made them work. We still drew our walks. Now, we weren't drawing 11 and 12 a game. We were drawing anywhere between 6 and 8. But for a pitching staff that doesn't walk anybody, that was a hell of an accomplishment. I think you're going to see something similar this weekend to where they're working counts and forcing these pitchers to get them out and drawing a few walks and hopefully come away with a couple wins.
Now, I will say that the one – maybe part of the Ole Miss Rebel baseball team that hasn't been playing well is the defensive side behind the pitchers. We've had some silly errors and some plays not go our way. This is a series that you can't make not even one of those, right? Like you have to play perfect defense, and if you don't, it'll get real ugly real quick. So with that caveat of we play perfect defense, we take the series.
Yeah, that's I actually saw this earlier and it made me think about you, Hitch. Ole Miss leads the SEC in pass balls so far this year with 8, and the next closest is Auburn and Kentucky, each with 4. So we've doubled up the next closest to us in pass balls. Something that's got to get cleaned up. Eli Birch is a guy that I think has really taken control there. He's been playing pretty well behind the plate and cutting down on that. I thought Smithwick did a pretty good job against Southern Miss too. It seemed like there were some improvements made behind the plate for him too. And look, if he's going to end up getting starts, that's what he's got to do. Mike Bianco's not putting anybody behind the plate that's not going to be able to handle a pitching staff and keep balls in front of him. He offense is secondary from a catcher position at this program, and whoever plays better defensively behind the plate is the guy that's going to play. And I think that's why you saw Birch 3 times last weekend. And at the very least, I think that's why you'll see him at least Friday night to see how he plays and just kind of go from there. But I think that's absolutely the reason he has the upper hand in that matchup.
Yeah. Hey, and I think too, you probably should point out this is probably a lot of these guys' first time playing in a really hostile SEC environment on the road. They've played in the friendly confines of Swayze Field, in the SEC a couple of times, so they know how great SEC fans can be to the home team, but they really haven't been introduced to how road SEC teams are treated by fans. So keep that in mind too.
So all right, guys, we'll go ahead and get out of here. If y'all are watching this, go back to the SEC After Dark YouTube channel. I'm going to have Trayson Hughes on tonight, so there should be an interview up with him, the red-hot right fielder for the Ole Miss Rebels. He's coming back on for his third appearance. So y'all go check that out as well. That should be up around the same time as this goes up. So I appreciate y'all tuning in. Chad, Hitch, always a pleasure every single week, and we'll talk to you guys at the very least next weekend. We're still trying to get Chad to get over the hump and come in for a Sunday show for us after a series. But we'll keep chipping away, see if we can get that done though.
Yep. Hopefully it works out for y'all.
Yeah. All right, guys. Take it easy.
I hope it doesn't.
See you guys.
All right. Bye.
See ya.